Over at the Herndon House on 9th Street, a block away from John T. Ford's theater, Lewis Payne slept late. Intimidating in size, he had no girl, no money, no job, and no ambition. But he did have a task that day: assassinate the Secretary of State, William Seward. 3.5 blocks north, Mary Surratt cleaned up after breakfast at her boarding house at 541 M Street, the place where the conspirators met. She was 45, small, plain, unlovely. She wore a face of forced cheerfulness. Back at the Kirkwood house, Surratt never acted, but Lewis Payne did. Earlier at 10:10, Payne and Davy Harold rode into Madison Place in the old clubhouse, Seward's home. There, Payne took a bottle from his jacket and knocked at the door. A young black manservant, William Bell, answered. Payne said, "I have medicine from Dr. Verdi." When Bell reached for the bottle, Payne said forcefully, "It has to be delivered personally." But Bell answered, "No, I have strict orders." "You're talking to a white man. This medicine is for your master, and by God, I'm going to give it to him." Bell protested, "But sir, out of my way. I'm going up." In and up the stairs, Payne bounded with Bell a step or two behind in chase. At the landing of the top floor, Seward's son, Frederick, emerged to learn of the commotion. By then, Payne was 2 steps from the top. He whispered he had medicine. The son held out his hand, but Payne refused to give it up. Frederick agreed to see if his father was awake and returned with, "You can't go in. He's sleeping. Give it to me." Payne finally said, "Very well, sir, I will go." He turned to go, but then pulled a pistol, wheeled, and fired point blank at Frederick. Click. Misfire. Payne immediately leapt to the top step and brought the butt of the gun down on Seward's head. Repeated blows felled him. William Bell ran down the steps shouting, "Murder! Murder!" The force of the blows broke Payne's pistol, so he now produced a knife and moved to Seward's bedroom door. He pushed, but someone was leaning against it. He drew back and crashed it in, throwing himself and another onto the floor of the darkened room. As Payne rose, a moving figure went by and he slashed at it. The assassin then jumped astride the bedridden Seward and struck wildly. Once with his arm raised, someone grabbed it. He slashed at the unseen body and heard someone cry out in pain. 2 people now tried to drag him from the bed. In the lull, a panicked Seward rolled onto the floor on the wall side of the bed, falling on his broken arm. As he did, 3 figures staggered about the room, crashing into tables and chairs. Finally freeing himself, Payne dashed out into the hall and yelled, "I'm mad! I'm mad!" As he ran, he saw a lady in a nightdress. She was screaming. Another man moved toward him. It was Emmerich Hansel, a State Department messenger who arrived at the wrong place and the wrong time. Payne plunged his knife into the man's chest, up to the hilt. Hansel fell without uttering a word. Now Payne lumbered down and out into the street. Behind him, human wreckage. Frederick Seward lay curled on his side with 2 fractures of the skull. Hansel lay bleeding profusely. Another son, Augustus Seward, had been stabbed 7 times. A male nurse, a Sergeant Robinson, had been stabbed 4. And Seward's daughter, Fanny, knocked unconscious when Payne barged into the bedroom. The intended victim, Secretary of State William Seward, had been viciously cut 3 times. 1 slash almost severed his right cheek from his face. In those few horrific moments, Lewis Payne had created 6 casualties, the most ever targeted by a single American assassin. Between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. the next day, the death watch continued at the Peterson house. An assassin and accomplice escaped to Maryland, and sheer panic reigned in the nation's capital. During that stretch of time, Secretaries Stanton and Wells arrived at Seward's, then made their way to the Peterson House, where for the next several hours Stanton essentially ran the government of the United States.